First off, let's speculate on the release dates of Season 2 and when to expect it. A1 Pictures is the studio that's responsible for producing Solo Leveling. They have also produced other shows that you have probably heard of, like Fairy Tail, Sword Art Online, 7 Deadly Sins, Kaguya-sama, and Mashu. So they have a good track record of producing reputable anime that have gone on to have successful adaptations. When it comes to later seasons or projects, there have been some dots for A1 Productions, as we've had adaptations like Sword Art Online 2 and the Persona 5 animation. But for the most part, we've gotten great later season adaptations for most of their shows. The third season of Kaguya-sama is in the top 15 when it comes to shows on my anime list with a score of 9.02. Season 2 of Kaguya-sama is also highly revered in the anime community, and the second season of 7 Deadly Sins and 86 are also successful and loved by fans. With this, it's safe to assume that the second season of Solo Leveling will most likely get a proper adaptation. There should be no drop in animation, and parts of the manhwa shouldn't be skipped out of nowhere. Basically, there'll be no Promised Neverland treatment happening here, so you don't need to worry. Next, we move on to how many episodes Season 2 of Solo Leveling should have. Well, I looked into all second seasons of shows that have been greenlit by A1 Pictures, and based on my research, Season 2 adaptations usually have about 12 episodes for the most part. Now, that might not seem like a lot, as other series typically get 24 episodes for their second season, especially when they are a major success. But the last time an anime produced by A1 Studios had more than 12 to 13 episodes was the second season of 7 Deadly Sins, which had 24 episodes, but that was way back in 2018. So expecting Season 2 to have 24 episodes is not really realistic. The most realistic case is we have 12 to 13 episodes for Season 2. Finally, when can we expect Season 2 of Solo Leveling to come out? Honestly, it shouldn't take that long. The best case scenario is probably in the fall of 2024, and the worst case scenario is in the winter of 2025. Just look at Mashu. Season 1 ended July 30th last year, and we got Season 2 on June 6th this year. That's roughly 6 months between seasons. I expect us to get a second season of Solo Leveling by November or December this year, and I don't believe production should be an issue, as A1 doesn't really have any major anime coming out this year besides marketing too many losing heroines. And even with that, Mashu Season 2 and Solo Leveling have been running at the same time, so it really should be no issue, as it's been shown that two shows can easily run at the same time. It's also worth mentioning that a tweet has been floating around saying that 6 seasons have been planned and greenlit for Solo Leveling, but there's no official sources that confirm this, so yeah, take that with a grain of salt. Son Jin-woo will be back soon, but if you can't wait until December and want to know what Season 2 is going to cover, here is the part of the video where I'll provide you with details. If you don't want spoilers for Season 2 of Solo Leveling, please click off at this point. We pick right up with Son Jin-woo as he decides to mentor the girl who was part of the dungeon mission, Hang Song-gi. She's also an E-rank hunter, and Song feels like she's going through the same thing he went through when he was an E-rank hunter, so he wants to help her become a better hunter. It's revealed to us that S-rank hunter Hwan Dong-so has landed in South Korea. He's ready to kill Song and Jin-ho for murdering his older brother. We then pick back up with Son and Han So-yi. Song wants Han to gain more experience, so he decides that they should accompany a strike team of the White Tiger Guild to a raid. The gate is a C-rank gate, and the strike team has an A-rank hunter, Kim Chu, and other high-ranking members, so it should be pretty straightforward to clear the dungeon. As soon as everyone steps into the gate, though, it becomes a red gate and traps everyone inside. A red gate is a gate that connects people to another dimension. Once you enter the gate, cut off from the outside world, and you can't escape until the boss is defeated or a dungeon break occurs. Because of this, the master of the White Tiger Guild, S-rank hunter, Baek Yeon-woo, decides to join the scene and investigate what's going on. Song and the other hunters are trapped in a winter world and have to deal with magic beasts like ice slayers and ice bears that are trying to kill them all. Baek Yeon-woo arrives on the scene and tries to force his way into the gate, but the gate remains completely sealed. It's here that he learns about Son Jin-woo for the first time, but he pays him no mind, as he considers Son an E-rank hunter who couldn't help out in this situation at all. Hwan Dong-soo also arrives at the side of the gate as Baek Yeon-woo is talking about Son Jin-woo with the others. Things get feisty between them and they almost clash, but they're stopped stopped by another A rank hunter. They both decide to wait and see if the hunters stuck in the gate can make it out. Back in the gate, Kim Chu, the A rank hunter, decides the hunters should split into two groups. Essentially, he splits them into a group of the weak and the strong. He and the B rank hunters stick together, leaving the C rank and lower hunters to fend for themselves. Naturally, Song decides to lead the group and keep them safe. Kim Chu's group actually starts out pretty okay, but they're quickly taken apart by the magical beasts and everyone is slaughtered apart from Kim Chu. Meanwhile, Son helps his group by providing them with warm clothing from his inventory and also taking out the magical beast in the area. We get to see Igris in action for the first time as he calls Igris to take out a pack of ice bears. Igris is strong enough to beat the leader by himself. He's so strong that even Son still thinks Igris is stronger than him, but probably not. Son then extracts the shadow of the leader of the ice bear and makes him a part of his army. Kim Chu eventually finds his way back to Son's group and is surprised that not only are all of them still alive, but they're all doing well for themselves. This makes him furious and want to kill all the lower rank hunters, but Son stops him before he can do so. Not surprisingly, Kim Chu brings a pack of ice slayers to Son's group. The leader of the group is shocked to find out Son can understand them. Even Song is confused as to why he can understand the leader of the ice slayers, and he probably just thinks it's because of the system. We get a hint of how special Song is because the head of the ice slayer says he's not human. He respects Song so much that he says he will allow him to leave if he hands over the remaining humans to him. This makes Song curious because the magic beasts are intelligent, yet they bother to kill humans, but the leader glitches out as he's about to answer why they're interested in killing humans. He glitches out like an NPC in a video game. This has something to do with the system, but we'll find out later. Song declines and he fights the ice slayers with his shadows. While Song is fighting the ice shadows, Kim Chu tries to attack him from behind because Song knocked him down, but Song saw this coming and he effortlessly defeats him. He also kills him and makes him one of his shadows. Like Igris, Kim Chu's shadow is a special shadow. Song names Kim Chu's shadow Tank, and Tank also helps fight the ice slayer. With the help of his shadows, Song defeats the boss and clears the dungeon, which opens the dungeon gate and allows everyone to head back to the real world. He tries to extract the shadow of the dungeon boss but fails to do so, which makes him annoyed. Back in the real world, Byac Yonho tries to comfort Song about what happened in the gates, but Song ignores him and tells him that he should consider himself lucky that he was able to rescue some of his hunters of his guild. Byac Yonho asks his workers why Song hasn't been recruited to his guild and tells them to focus on doing so and make it a top priority. Song drops off Hang Song Yi back at her home and he decides he'll go on more raids with Jinho. In the next arc, Song has completed all 19 raids he agreed to do with Jinho, so he needs to find a way to access and complete more raids. He and Jinho have a dinner to discuss their plans moving forward. In the midst of the conversation, Song decides it's time to take on the Demon Dungeon and complete it. Later on, Jinho tries to negotiate with his father about running the guild. His dad agrees under the condition that he's able to succeed in recruiting Song into the guild. During the conversation though, we learn that ants from Jeju Island have started to mutate and are able to migrate to countries. One of the ants was recently found dead in a Japanese coastline. We then go back to Song as he enters the demon dungeon. As he steps into the dungeon, he receives a new quest and realizes how difficult it's going to be. After clearing the first floor, Song realizes that he's leveled up enough to reach S rank. He feels he's now on the same level as Byac Yonho, as he got a good indicator that he's on the same level since he was around him. Song also finds out that he has to get entry permits from each floor to progress to the next. This hasn't proved too hard, as Song has been able to reach the 50th floor without much difficulty. However, the floors are a grind to get through and consume a lot of time. At the 50th floor, he encounters the boss of the lower levels. We witness another boss fight with Song and his shadows. Vulcan proved to be a tough boss, consistently eliminating Song's shadows, but Song's special shadows proved to be especially useful in the fights against the boss, and Song is able to defeat Vulcan, marking one of the better fights in the series up until this point. The rewards for the fights are pretty good, as he got an orb that boosts all magic damage by 100%, but by far the best one is the formula to craft the elixir of life. Song eventually clears the quest, as the quest was to clear the first half of the demon dungeon. Completing the quest levels him up significantly and receives more rewards and items for the quest. Meanwhile, as all of this was happening in the US, in an A-rank dungeon, a certain person is found who seems very powerful and claims to be South Korean. He states that he's been trapped inside the dungeon for 10 years and just just wants to go back home. The US hunters take him into custody, suspecting he might be a magical beast, another person. The US Hunter Association decides to call in Hwang Dong-so, as he's South Korean and he'll be able to communicate with the mysterious person. Luckily, Hwang Dong-so had just arrived from South Korea and was currently in the States at that point. Hwang Dong-so interrogates the mysterious hunter and discovers his true identity: Son Il-wan, Son's dad. During their conversation, we also learn more hints about the world and how things don't seem like they are, and there's more to it. Discovering this makes Hwang Dong-so ecstatic, as he decides he'll take his revenge out on Song's dad instead of Song if he can't get to the son, and he decides to fight Song's dad. However, he loses badly and doesn't even put up a fight against Hwang. The next arc after this is the Revaluation Arc. Son decides to go for a rank reevaluation, as it's finally time to let the cat out of the bag and stop pretending to be an E rank hunter. When he gets reevaluated, the machine used to reevaluate him short circuits and it reads an error, as the mana levels he displays is too astronomical. This leads to the people in charge of the machine to speculate that he's an S rank hunter. They end up telling Song to come back in 3 days for another reevaluation. Another S rank hunter, Choi Jun-in, takes note of this and tries to recruit Son on the spot. Song refuses him though, as he has other important things to do. Later on in the day, Son meets with the Hunter Association's head, Go Jun-hee, a retired S-rank hunter. Go Jun-hee wants to recruit Son so he can eventually lead the Hunter Association and replace him. However, Son declines and tells him he's primarily interested in leveling up and getting stronger and nothing really else. During their conversation, we learn that there are 5 major guilds in South Korea and how hunters shape the society and dictate everything. After this, we find out that there's a marketplace where gear and items are traded among hunters. Song wants to acquire something that will protect him from the flame in the upper levels of the demon dungeon. Song wants to sell the A rank item, the orb he got that boosts magical damage by 100%. The only issue though is that it would be extremely suspicious for an E rank hunter to be in possession of an A rank item, and in his records it's never been shown that he's been to an A rank dungeon, so how did he come across an A rank item? He decides that he will have to apply as a minor to gain access to an A rank dungeon, as we remember that minors usually come into mine the orbs and the mana stones after dungeons are cleared. This will give him an excuse to mistakenly find an A rank item in an A rank dungeon, and it won't be a surprise with him having one in his possession. The A rank gate that he steps into is one that Choi Jun-in and the strike team are clearing out. So we get to see how the strike team for a guild operates in clearing a dungeon. As for the most part, we've only seen solo efforts from Song. We are formally introduced to the female S rank hunter we see in season 1, Choi Hyun-in, who is the vice guild master of Choi Jun-in's group. Choi confronts Son in the dungeon when he tries to venture out on his own after clearing out the dungeon for the day, but Son is able to pretend like he wasn't doing anything and she leaves him alone. Son agrees to come back the next day for one more job before he does his re-evaluation. The next day, the strike team handed the dungeon. Son is minded that they're short-handed and they need someone to carry their luggage for them. Seeing the opportunity to enter another A rank dungeon without an S rank hunter stopping him from exploring, Son agrees to carry the luggage. Just before the squad enters though, Son notices something's off about the gate and speculates that something unplanned could happen. His feeling isn't wrong. Shortly after they enter, the strike team gets ambushed by a pack of hierarchs. The hierarchs have the strike team's number, so Son discreetly decides to help them, as he doesn't want to reveal his identity to random hunters. Because of his help, the strike team is able to defeat the pack of orcs. Most of the team doesn't even know that Song assisted them, but 2 of them actually notice, but they decide to remain quiet about it. Due to the difficulty spike of the dungeon, the team leader decides it's best for them to retreat to avoid unnecessary losses. As they're about to leave though, they realize the gate has been sealed and they're trapped inside. More hierarchs arrive and the leader gives them a choice: meet him deeper in the dungeon or die by the hands of his soldiers. This leads to them meeting the boss. The strike team meets the boss and things are looking pretty bleak. The team is thoroughly outnumbered and outleveled. They try to fight, but they are so frightened of the boss that they can't really do anything. The boss wants to kill all of them, but notices that there's someone strong amongst their group. When it looks like all of them are about to be slaughtered, Song decides to step in and fight the hierarchs and the boss. This fight between Song, his shadows versus the orcs begin. Since completing the first step of the demon dungeon, Sun's shadows have become extremely strong. Iron can handle swarms or orcs by himself, as they damn near are A rank hunters at this point. Sun's regular soldiers are even B rank level at this point too. Some of Sun's shadows get taken out, but they regenerate indefinitely as long as he has mana. The fight rages on as the orc leader uses more of his magic attacks. Sun replaces the soldiers he's lost though by resurrecting the orcs he's killed to replenish his soldiers. While all of this is going on, S rank hunter Chai Hye-in catches up with the strike squad. She had been telling Song because she felt something suspicious about him and had to get to the bottom of it. She doesn't join the fight as she's amazed by what she's seen and decides to observe. Song gets serious and decides to take out the dungeon boss. At this point, Song has the dungeon boss cornered because he's killed and resurrected the boss's high rank soldiers. In a cruel twist of fate, the boss ends up getting killed by his own soldiers. Song decides to collect the boss's shadow, and because the boss is high enough, the boss's shadow is special, so Song can name him like how we name Igris and Iron. With this now, Sun has 3 special shadows: Igris from season 1, Iron from clearing out the ice dungeon, and Tusk now from clearing out this dungeon. So yeah, he's stacking up and getting a lot of ammo. We also get some insights as to how the shadow rankings work and how shadows are rated amongst themselves. Aside from Chai Hye-in, other hunters from the association step into the dungeon and also see Sun clearing out the A rank dungeon by himself, which is the second dungeon he's cleared out alone by himself. The association tells the strike squad to keep everything hush hush about what happened in the dungeon to cover up for Sun. After all of this, Sun meets up with Jinhoo and tells him he's not going to join his dad's guild and he's going to form his own guild. Choi Jun-in and Baek Hyun-ho also arrive at the same hospital to try to recruit him. They both have a conversation as to why they have to be the ones to recruit Sun. Chairman Go also comes to the reevaluation. Sun shows them his necromancer abilities. After the whole process, Song is given his S rank badge and is analyzed to be a mage type hunter. He also turns down everyone's request to try to recruit them to join their own guild and says he's gonna form his own guild. To Song's annoyance though, as he steps out, there's a whole bunch of paparazzi and media there. Basically the whole of South Korea gets to find out the 10th S rank hunter, Sun Jinhoo. With this though, Sun has his S rank hunter license and he gets the gear he'll need for the demon dungeon. This arc should be the final arc for season 2, as I don't think they can cover more with just 13 episodes. Before Sun headed out to the demon dungeon, he decides to handle some things. He left some of his shadows to watch over his mom in the hospital, his sister, and his neighborhood, as he feels he's going to be gone for a long time. All of this was just to make sure everyone is safe and nothing will happen to them if he leaves. Song enters the demon dungeon out of all of this. In the dungeon, Song gives Tusk his mage shadow, the orb that boosts on magic damage by 100%, and the results are explosive to say the least. Song is now at level 81 and is looking very OP. To tackle the dungeon efficiently, Song decides to split his shadows up in 6 groups and give them 2 tasks: split up and defeat every enemy they come across and report to him when they find the entry permit for the next floor. This strategy proves to be the best move as Song quickly reaches the 80th floor. The only problem is Song has been stuck on the 80th floor for a while, and what's worse is that his shadow soldiers keep him on dying, as some high-ranking demons have decided to hunt his shadows. Song decides to call back his shadows to stop them from suffering heavy losses. He then decides to use some of his shadows as baits so he can apprehend the demons that are killing his shadows. With this tactic, Song finds the demons that are killing his shadows, and yeah, he easily defeats them. As he's about to slaughter the boss, he's surprised to find out that the demon pack leader can speak English. He's even more surprised to find out that she's a woman. She tries to sneak attack Song but is easily stopped, which forces her to beg and agree to help Song find the entry permit for the next floor. Aside from that, Song asks her who the demons are and what their origins are. The name of the demon is Esu, and she's part of the Raidru clan. She tells Song that she hears voices in her head that tell her to protect the place she's occupied, that being the dungeon, and they were never in the dungeon from the start. She says all demons used to live in the demon realm, but they were transported here and have nowhere to go back, suggesting something to do with the system and how everything might be a game, with Sun being the main player of the game. Sun asks Esu what she's doing in the demon realm, but she tells him they were preparing for war against the Great Force, but suddenly starts to glitch out, which makes Sun curious, as this is the same thing that happened to the Ice Slayer boss when he tried to ask him questions. Esu takes Sun to where her clan resides. Her dad, the king, is skeptical of Song at first, but they eventually come to an understanding. He agrees to give Sun their entry permit for the next floor and allows SU to be his guide to find the entry permits for the other floors going forward. Because of SU, Song is able to find the permits for the other floors at a much quicker pace and gain more points and level up his soldiers at a rapid pace. Because his shadow soldiers have leveled up so much, the Ice Bear shadow that he actually defeated in the Ice Dungeon has leveled up to the point where he can even get a name like Igris, Tusk, and Iron. Son decides to give the Ice Bear shadow a name and he names it Tank. Igris has also leveled up to the point that he's on the same level as an S rank soldier. Just before reaching the 90th floor, SU tells Song that the difficulty spike will be insane because he will have to deal with the top noble demon clans. She advises him to be cautious and try to negotiate with the clans instead of engaging in battle, but Song tells her that there will be no need as he clears the 90th to 99th floor. It's time for what we've all been waiting for, the final battle, the Demon King Baran, the final boss of the Demon Dungeon versus Sun Jinwoo. Baran has a Wyvern under his command and he can also command demons to aid him in battle too. And I must say that this is easily the best battle in the series up until this point. Everyone just goes crazy on both sides. Narrating it really doesn't do justice. I encourage you to check it out yourselves to see how crazy this fight is. The fight really was decided by Song's shadow soldiers though, as they aided him in the battle. Baran was super OP and Song couldn't defeat him by himself. Even with this though, the battle still goes the distance, as Song really needed to lock in to be able to beat the boss. It's SU that proves to be the deciding factor though, as she distracts Baran, which allows Song to land the finishing blow on him and defeat him. While all of this is going on though, 11 ants on Jeju Island has been able to successfully land on a remote island in Japan. The ant causes chaos and kills tons of civilians and low rank hunters. It's eventually taken out by an A rank hunter though in the nearby vicinity. The ants attack on Japan makes the South Korea Association very worried, as they feel if they got the same attack they won't be able to handle it, as they don't have the same capabilities as the Japanese Hunter Association. A national level hunter from America also shows up to the Hunter Association and asks President Go about the whereabouts of Sun, but President Go doesn't know and he tells him this, so he decides to leave. Because of the threats of the ants though, an S-rank hunter from Japan arrives. His name is Goto Ryuji and he discusses with President Go about how to tackle the ants problem, with another raid on Jeju Island becoming a real possibility, which eventually becomes the case. Goto gives the proposal that Japan and Korea should have a merger strike squad of only S-rank hunters to take down the ants and prevent the upcoming threats. The plan is for the South Korean S-rank hunters to take out the queen, while the Japanese S-rank hunters distract the ants to allow the South Koreans to focus solely on killing the queen. Back to Sun. Defeating Baran gives Sun a ton of rewards, but most importantly, the one he's been looking for, the final item needed to craft the elixir of life. Sun wastes no time at craft the elixir. Before he leaves though, he attracts the shadow of Baran's Wyvern and he names the shadow Kaizo. Sun also gains a new necromancer ability that allows him to switch locations with any of his shadows. The ability has a long cooldown though. He wastes no time and heads back home to cure his mom. Sun gives his mom the elixir of life and he just reminisces on everything he's had to do to get to this point and how hard the journey has been. Sun's mom eventually wakes up, which makes Sun break down in tears. He accomplished his goal. His mom has finally been cured. With that being said, that should be everything season 2 should cover. Solo Leveling is only just gonna keep on getting better and the hype don't stop. No doubt the new season will have more people investing than the first season, and if you like content like this, check out my other video.